Good day and welcome to News Now on TV360. I am Thelma Okoro. The World Health Organization has declared Zika virus a public health emergency of international concern. WHO also said protective measures against mosquito bites remain the most important preventive measure against the virus. Margaret Chan, the World Health Organization Director General, said this at a press briefing in Geneva on Monday, that a coordinated international response is needed to intensify the control of mosquito and expedite development of diagnostic tests. Experts are worried that the virus is spreading far and fast with devastating consequences. The infection has been linked to several cases of microcephaly in which babies are born with underdeveloped brains. In Nigeria, medical experts are warning the country is vulnerable to the virus because the mosquitoes that carry the virus are common here. Already, Nigeria's Minister of Health has ordered the screening for Zika at all the country's ports of entry. We spoke to Dr. Dishu Oyewoga to get his opinion.
The species that transmits yellow fever, dengue fever, is Aedes species. The species of mosquito that does that is also in Nigeria because we've recorded cases of dengue fever, even recently. And so the risk is there. We may not have it now, but we need to take protective measures to ensure that we don't bring it into the country. If you are not in a region where there is active transmission, where everybody is conscious of it, so you may not know that this is Zika virus. You usually know if the health worker suspects it and your blood sample is taken and they take it to the lab and they run the test and they discover it is Zika virus. Otherwise, you will have thought it is any other viral infections. It's actually a mild infection anyway, and then it comes with fever, headache, and then redness of the eyes. And the redness of the eyes, some might even think is normal conjunctivitis. They will tell you even it's Apollo, and so one may have it and you may not even know that this is Zika virus unless it is actually diagnosed by medical experts. We need to sensitize Nigerians, as in to continue to create awareness, especially for those who travel to Latin American countries, so that they know that the risk of getting this virus to their system is there and they are likely to bring it back home. So they need, if they have to go, then they need to make sure that they sleep under bed nets, they use repellents, mosquito repellents, take all the necessary measures as advised by the Ministry of Health of that country, so that they don't have contact with these mosquitoes. But if you don't have to travel, if you have an alternative, if you can shift your travel, or go elsewhere, then it's better you don't go to those countries for now.
Niger Delta X Militants in support of the sovereignty of the state of Biafra have claimed responsibility for the hijack of a ship on Friday along the Bakassi Peninsula in Nigeria's coastal line. The militants have demanded the release of Biafran leader Namadi Kanu as a ransom for the release of the ship and its crew members. A spokesperson for the militants, named only as General Ben, said a 31-day ultimatum has been issued to the Nigerian government, within which Kanu, who was arrested in October 2015 and is awaiting trial on charges of treason, should be released. The spokesperson threatened to blow up the ship and the crew members on board if the government failed to comply. The federal government has accused the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, of buying substandard weapons for the military to prosecute the war against terrorism. In a statement, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, described as unfortunate and unsubstantiated the statement credited to former President Goodluck Jonathan, attributing the success in the war against terrorism to weapons allegedly bought by his administrations and delivered after he left the office. He said the present administration owes it all duty to put the record straight, especially because the issues raised by the former president are of rare public interest and borders on national security. Security operatives say they have demobilized material suspected to be improvised devices planted near the office of the Borno State Pilgrims Welfare in Maiduguri. Victor Isuku, who is the police public relations officer of Borno State Police Command, made the disclosure in an interview, saying the IEDs, which were planted by people suspected to be members of the Boko Haram insurgents, were demobilized by a joint security team. At least 20 people were killed after 3 female suicide bombers detonated IEDs in Chibok, headquarters of the Chibok local government area of the state in January. This was followed by an attack on Saturday night on Dalori village on the outskirts of Maiduguri, Borno State, which resulted in the death of at least 85 people. The office of Nigeria's former Vice President Namadi Sambo has been raided by the EFCC. The anti-graft agency carried out the operation on Saturday, but news of the incident was revealed on Monday. Aside from being on the list of those to be probed for arms purchase, it was gathered that the former Vice President was also being investigated for his role as the chairman of the National Council on Privatization in the former President Goodluck Jonathan administration. Also seized from his office is the sum of $50,000. Now, in the face of daunting security challenges, the federal government has embarked on a rigorous exercise which involves all MDAs and security agencies saddled with the task of crisis response and counter-terrorism. Speaking in Abuja, the Deputy Director of the Presidential Communication Command and Control Center, Shehu Saidu Shehu, said the exercise is aimed at unveiling the various antics deployed by terrorists.
The exercise is actually aimed at simulating an exercise that will show us a marauding terrorist firearms attack, additional to an IED explosion. If we all recall, we realize that this is the new trend of terrorism worldwide. We saw it in France, we saw it in Ouagadougou, likewise in Bamako, and numerous other incidents in Nigeria by the Boko Haram terrorists. It is in this light that this exercise is organized by the Office of the National Security Advisor in order to practice the synergy of effort between all the security agencies and the cooperation therein expected of them during such crises. This exercise is going to involve all the MDAs responsible in tackling any activity on crisis response and counter-terrorism.
The trial of the former National Security Advisor Sambo, retired at the Federal High Court in Abuja, has again been postponed until February 26th. The former NSA standing trial for the alleged diversion of 13 billion naira meant for the procurement of arms to fight Boko Haram. At resumed hearing on Tuesday, the trial was stalled due to the failure of the operatives of the Department of State Service to produce the ex-NSA in court on time, and the need for the other co-defendants to respond to an application by Dasuki to stop the trial. In a bid to address the security challenges in the country, the Nigeria Police Force has partnered with UK and Swiss authorities on anti-kidnap training. The Inspector General of Police, Solomon Arase, on Monday declared open a counter-kidnap seminar organized in its headquarters in Abuja by the British High Commission, with the trainers drawn from the United Kingdom Anti-Kidnapping Agency and the Swiss Crisis Management Unit. The organizers promised to deliver the training using United Nations Kidnap Manual, using Europe and other parts of the world. The workshop, which commenced on Monday, will last for 5 days. Nigeria and Italy have signed an agreement to assist each other on intelligence sharing, capacity building and provision of logistics to their respective armed forces, especially the police. The signing of agreement was witnessed by President Muhammadu Buhari and the Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi in the State House in Abuja. Besides the agreement, the two countries also had bilateral talks on issues such as energy, security, agriculture, immigration, human and drug trafficking, infrastructure, and education. Nigeria's Ministry of Budget and National Planning says the 2016 budget will be funded with proceeds from the non-oil sector of the economy. Minister of Budget and National Planning Udoma said this during a visit from members of the Senate Committee on Planning in Abuja. The minister called the fall in oil prices a blessing in disguise, as it affords the country the freedom to fund her recurrent budget entirely from crude oil receipts.
These are tough times for Nigeria. The oil price has gone down from over $100 just a year and a half ago to about $30 today. And as you know, oil historically has represented the bulk of the resources which we use to fund the workings of government. So it is a challenging time. However, sometimes these things can also be opportunities. I see this as an opportunity, and we see this as an opportunity to move away from dependence on oil. And I think in the long term, or even the medium term, we should not look at funding our budget principally from oil. In fact, we should look at a situation where we can fund our recurrent budget without touching crude oil receipts. And that crude oil receipts should be used only for capital. And I believe that we can get there. Internally, we must look at internally generated resources. We are looking at creative ways of funding a number of the items in the budget. We have asked the various ministers responsible for infrastructure to look at concessioning of airports, tolling of the roads, looking at the railway to be done on a PPP, looking at the various ways that we can generate private sector resources to help us fund a number of our projects. We believe that it is important that the capital element of the project, all those projects are realized. They have to be realized in order to stimulate the economy. We have ambitious targets. We want to move to at least a 4%. Our target is 4.2% this year, and subsequently even higher the following year. And as you know, we were under 3% for the last two quarters. And so there has to be a certain amount of spending to stimulate the economy, to create employment, to get our people back to work. We must get this economy going. And the way to do it is to make sure that those capital projects are realized. So we're going to find a way to realize those capital projects. If there's insufficient funds, then we will look at innovative, imaginative ways of funding those capital projects.
Nigeria's Finance Minister Kemi Adeosun has revealed that the country is in talks with the World Bank for a loan of $3.5 billion to help finance a planned record budget. According to Adeosun, the loan talks are in anticipation of getting the budget approved and are not part of an IMF package. She also added that the country was also looking at the domestic market as a means to get finance. Africa's largest economy and top oil producer is reeling from the fall in crude oil prices, the source of 95% of foreign earnings. This has led to the Naira hitting record lows on the parallel market amid dwindling foreign reserve exchange. The corruption trial of the former chairman of House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee on Fuel Subsidy, Farouk Lawan, commenced on Tuesday. Lawan is accused of obtaining $620,000 bribe money from Femi Otedola, the chairman of Fort Oil. He's been arraigned on a 7-count criminal charge bordering on collecting bribe in order to doctor a report by his then committee in favor of Xenon Oil and Gas Limited. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll look at more top stories. Stay tuned.
Hello, you're welcome. You're watching the Funny White Man Show, which is the biggest, the brightest, and the most entertaining show in Africa.
Funny white man, but this way you talk, you too much. Give me 5,000 man that you. Too much. So you get it like, when she move along the street, yeah, me should like that, I'm going girl. You know, my own people, actually. Yeah, fine, it's fun. I enjoy it. And I'm one of those very few. I'm forever taking it personal. I will listen 160 million Nigerians are corrupt. How? My brother, I'm looking for you.
Yeah, but it's a growth, and this is the time to build business and know the pitfalls and know what to do and what not to do. But there are months where you get business and months.
You know how we do, how we train them. We did the way you did
Hello, you're welcome. You're watching Trending Matters on the Funny White Man Show. Of course, they will bring you trending issues just to entertain and tickle your fancy.
Welcome back. You're watching TV360 News now. Now, as part of a major drive to increase the impact of its human rights work in Nigeria, Amnesty International has collaborated with the Committee for Defense of Human Rights, CDHR. The collaboration was revealed by the chairman of CDHR, Malaki Ogumadu, at a press briefing in Lagos. Speaking on the partnership, both groups expressed optimism that human rights abuse will be tackled effectively across the country.
CDHR has consistently championed a campaign against the abuse of the rights of the Nigerian people, particularly regarding torture. And the socio-political conditions or factors leading to that are well known to the Nigerian people, namely the insufficient capacity of the law enforcement agencies in particular to properly investigate and scientifically ascertain the causes of crime. That lack of capacity has always occasioned the deployment of torture as an instrument of extracting statements from suspects in particular. We have allied challenges of extrajudicial killings which have been on the rampage in recent times. You will remember the policeman who killed the twins together with their friends only a few days to Christmas and shot himself. We have a series of such cases. So we are delighted, as a foremost human rights organization in Nigeria, that Amnesty International has identified us, taken the trouble, visited us today, just so to consolidate the partnership that is needed to be able to wage this campaign. The time is now to activate the constitutional provisions regarding the rights of Nigerians to dignity of human person and the right not to be tortured for any reason, just so that we are also prepared, as we have always done in the past, particularly now that we are getting the kind of collaboration and partnership with known international organizations to ventilate the abuses of these rights, even in courts of law.
The issues of human rights in Nigeria are very complex, they are very widespread, and that's why we think working with credible and reputable institutions like the CDHR will add a lot in the promotion and protection of people's rights against abuses and violation by not just states but by also non-state actors. And with regards the project that we are starting, the Stop Torture project, now the issue of torture, all of you will know, is something that has become a norm in the enforcement of law by state actors, but as well as non-state actors. A lot of people have been subjected to various forms of torture, cruel and inhuman and degrading treatments within the bounds of the law, as also outside the bounds of the law. The Nigerian Constitution prohibits torture, but it has not criminalized torture yet. And as an organization, and together with our partnership, we will continue to call for torture, acts of torture, to be criminalized in Nigeria.
The Nigerian government has embarked on a campaign to ensure armed forces personnel are prompt and effective in responding to outbreak of diseases within the barracks and the country at large. In a bid to achieve this, the government has struck a partnership with the U.S. Department of Defense HIV program, primarily to curtail HIV, AIDS scourge and other diseases of public health and military significance and Research. The Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Defense, Ambassador Danjuma Sheni, who was represented by the Director of Medical Services in the ministry, Oluwatoyin Akinlade, revealed this at the training for disease outbreak investigation and management for armed forces in Abuja.
The objective of this training is to build our military capability in planning ahead and for the prompt responses to the outbreak of any form of diseases within the country in general and the armed forces in particular. You will all agree with me that this session is very timely in view of the current fight against Lassa fever and associated diseases, including the cases in faraway America with the outbreak of the dreaded Zika virus disease. I commend the Director General, management and staff of the Health Implementation Program for keeping faith with the vision of the program, which was established some 11 years back, to curtail the scourge of HIV/AIDS among our troops, their families, and the civilian population. This program was born out of partnership between the Ministry of Defense and the U.S. Department of Defense, with the primary mandate to build human capacity and to provide relevant laboratory facilities, among others. It is gratifying to note that over the years, the activities of the program had focused on other diseases, including tuberculosis, malaria, Ebola, etc., with tremendous successes. I wish to emphasize that the training be focused more on the following. A, increasing critical knowledge and operational skills of armed forces personnel in outbreak management. B, establishment of effective disease surveillance mechanisms in barracks and basic synergy with the local state health authorities. C, strengthening laboratory capacity to conduct basic diagnostic investigations. And D, establishing relationships with key stakeholders within the framework of the Federal Ministry of Health.
The Director General of Nigerian Tourism Development Corporation, Salim Banifu, has described tourism as a real investment. This comes as Nigeria's government has expressed the need to diversify the nation's economy through different sectors, including tourism. Banifu, speaking at an event, also dismissed beliefs that the current security situation in the northeast part of the country may hinder tourism.
For tourism to work, we must have a holistic approach. We have to look at tourism as a real estate investment. People say security, 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 but I have traveled around the whole of Nigeria. And what I would like to say is that security is not peculiar to Nigeria. Terrorism is also not peculiar to Nigeria. As a matter of fact, terrorism is new to Nigeria compared to other countries. Israel, for example, they're my partners. Israel has been dealing with terrorism since 1946. The Jerusalem hotel was bombed and about 91 people were killed. Spain has been dealing with the Basque region. The United Kingdom has been dealing with the IRA, the Twin Towers we have in the United States. Israel, today, in spite of what's going on, is the best religious tourism experience in the world. They are still selling it. Even Egypt, at the last international exhibition we went for, they had the biggest stand. It was so impressive. They were having problems at that time. And you'll see the passion and the enthusiasm with which the tourism, the DG and their team, how they were saying, this is the best time to come to Egypt. And they will show us that we have tourism police. That is something else we're also looking at. So talking about security in Nigeria, Nigeria has 36 states plus the Abuja 37, with a land space of over 923,000 square kilometers. It's huge and massive. The issues we're having are just in 3 states. Lagos, I keep saying, is a perfect place to start your tourism exploration.
Oil prices fell on Tuesday, dented by worries about the demand outlook and rising supply. This comes as hopes for a deal between OPEC and Russia on output cuts faded. Brent dropped 53 cents to $33.71 a barrel, while U.S. crude dropped 61 cents at $31 $0.01 a barrel. The Russian Energy Ministry on Monday said Russia's energy minister and Venezuela's oil minister discussed the possibility of holding joint consultations between OPEC and non-OPEC countries in the near future. But Goldman Sachs said it was highly unlikely OPEC would cooperate with Russia to cut output. Texas Senator Ted Cruz has won the Iowa Republican caucuses, the first vote to choose U.S. presidential candidates. He took 28% of the Republican votes, beating his rival, the frontrunner Donald Trump and Marco Rubio. Meanwhile, votes in the Democratic race are still being counted, with Hillary Clinton's camp saying they have narrowly won the race. The aim of the primary and caucus races in the coming months is to determine which candidates will stand for the two main parties in the November presidential elections. At least 20 people have been killed and 25 others injured after a suicide bomber blew himself up trying to enter a police building in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul. The attack came as the American military issued a statement of the war's toll on Afghan security forces, saying that casualties among Afghan soldiers and policemen in 2015 were up by almost a third. Kabul has been hit by a series of suicide attacks, including last month when one person was killed and several journalists from a private TV station. Former Premier League champions Manchester City have announced that its current coach, Manuel Pellegrini, will leave the club at the end of the current season. He will be replaced by current Bayern Munich coach Pep Guardiola. The former Barcelona coach had announced his decision to quit the Bavarians at the end of the season to enable him seek a move to the Premier League side. His comments had increased the pressure on Manchester United boss Louis van Gaal and Manchester City, where Manuel Pellegrini had received little or no backing from the City board. The City board has now confirmed the capture of the Spanish serial winner. The International Olympic Committee has said that the Summer Olympics scheduled to be played in Rio, Brazil will go on as planned despite the health threats posed by the Zika virus outbreak. The WHO had on Monday declared the virus as a public health emergency concern, describing the outbreak as extraordinary. However, in a press interview on Monday, the president of the IOC, Thomas Bach, expressed confidence that there will be good conditions for the athletes and spectators at the Rio Games in August. Bach also said he was confident athletes would feel safe traveling to Brazil for the global sports showpiece. The Brazilian government is also supporting the decision of the IOC. The Rio Olympics game will be held in Brazil from August 5th to August 21st. The three IAAF officials who were banned for allegedly covering up doping offences have now taken their appeals to the Court of Arbitration for Sports. The IAAF had last month banned Papamasatadiak, the former head of Russian athletics Valentin Balaknishev, and the former Russian head coach Alexei Melnikov for blackmailing athletes and covering up positive drug tests. Their bans were a result of a corruption and doping scandal which has rocked the athletics governing body in recent months. We've come to the end of news now. We thank you very much for watching. I am Thelma Okoro.